Okay, we're in the sugya of Bika Chaylim. Good morning to everybody. We're up to Lamed Tes Amid Beis. Lamed Tes Amid Beis. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. Kol Mavakar Chayla, anyone who goes ahead and is Mavakar Choli, goes ahead and visits a sick person. Notel Echem Meshishim Bitsaro, takes away 60th of his pain. And there's another Nusach Mecholyav, takes away 60th of his disease, of his sickness. So Amalei, they told him, Cain, Le'ola Shisin, bring 60 people for Lukma, and the person will be established, they'll stand up, will be wine. So Amalei, no, it doesn't work like that. It works Kisuraisa the Bay Rebbe. It works like the 10th of Rebbe, which we with Ben Gili, the Tanya. We'll get back to this in a second. Rebbe says, Bas Hanizonis Minichse Achin, after the father dies, and the girl is going ahead and be sustained by the estate, right? And now she's getting married. She takes a 10th in the Chasim. So Amalei told the Rebbe, according to you, who's going to get married simultaneously. So much for the Shidduch crisis. It's going to be 10 Shidduchim at once. The Uben Ein Loi, and the Uben, and they have a son. So Ein Loi Leben B'makam Banais Klum, you get nothing. In other words, the half meaning of the Gemara is each one takes a 10th of the property, and their son will be left with nothing. So this is the Asarais of the Rebbe. Here's it's to be Mekayim the 10th. So Amalehem, Rishonim Noitelis Isa. First one takes 10. Mechasim Shniya B'Mashashaya Shlishit, and then the next one takes whatever is left over of that. So we take from 9 and percentage, and B'Mashashaya V'Chesed, so collects B'Shava. Mekayim, each one would go ahead to get married simultaneously. To Mekayim the 10th, each one would take a 10th. One would take 10th, the next one would take whatever, a 10th of whatever's remaining, next one 10th whatever was remaining. And then they would go throw that back. Now that you fulfill the mitzvah of 10th, and then they throw that back into the pot and divide it equally. Why don't you keep the original Kaluka? Because why, since they all got married at the same time, why should the first one gain? Because she's getting a 10th from the most of the property. The bottom line is each one is going to take a 10th away, a 60th away from whatever remains. Each one's going to take a 60th away from whatever remains. Now, there was an adjoinder over here. It has to be what? It has to be a Ben Gili. It has to be what? A person that is a Ben Gili. If you look at the Mefarish says, Bocha Kimoso, either young like him, or Zakin Zakin. So in other words, if a young person visits an older person, it's not going to work. If an old person visits a younger person, it's not going to work. Each one has to be of the same age. That would go ahead be Ben Gil from the Lashon of Gil, of age. However, if you look at the Ran does not say that. The Ran says again 2 lines from the bottom at the end of the line, Uben Gilui shenoiled hamivaker b'mazloi shel choila, that the visitor, the person's visiting the patient, it should be under the same mazel. Now we saw Gemara on Shabbos how mazel works. It changes. It's not only if you're born in the same month as the Goyish world does, and they took all their signs from us. The Gemara there goes through, but in each minute really, there's another mazel that works. Noga, I forgot exactly it Noga something, and each person who's born under the same mazel has a certain mazel, not luck, but a certain predisposition for life. So, for example, we're familiar with Esav being a person who was born under the mazel of Madim. Madim is Mars. Mars is the red planet, literally. David HaMelech also had that same mazel. When Shmuel saw David HaMelech, he was astounded and said, that can't possibly be the king. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to say, Kum, go ahead and anoint him, right? Because this king he's Tov Royev, he's Fe'enayim, he'll only kill with the consent of the Sanhedrin. So again, that Ben Gili, it'd have to be a Ben Gili to go ahead and remove the 60th. Now there's kasha over here. If you're removing the sickness, it's going into you, right? It's going into you. If the sickness is going into you, how can you put yourself in sakana? So we have one pshat is that Shoyme mitzvah lo yada devara. Someone who's shoyme mitzvah lo yada devara. Shluchei mitzvah and nisukin l'chayver. That again, you're doing a mitzvah, you're not going to get damaged. Or else, this is a beautiful allusion to the concept of shishim, of batal b'shishim. Since you're only taking away a 60th of his sickness, that would be what? That would be mevatel the disease. Very interesting allusion to it. There's a sefer called Oilus Ephraim. It's put on the Kli Yakar, and he finds a very, very cute gamatria over here. In Parshas Vayechi, it says, "Vayomi Yosef, Hine avicha chola. Hine, behold, your father is sick." Hine is the gematria of 60. Hey and hey is 10. Nun is 50 is 60. And Vayagal Yaakov is told, Vayomer, Hine bincha Yosef vaylecha, vayischazik Yisrael, vayeshev ala mita. Mita is what is 59. Right? Mita is what is actually hey and hey is what is 10. Is what is Hamita is 10. Mem is 40 is 50, and Tes is 9 is 59. Because why was he able to sit up in the Mita Mischazek? It's because Yosef, who was the Ben Gilui of Yaakov Avinu, Yosef Yedur was the Ben Gilui of Yaakov Avinu, and he took away a 60th of his, and therefore a nice allusion to that. Okay, anyway, says the Gemara Baita, continuing to discuss the din of Pika Chayla, so Ben Gilui, and as a Hakdama, the Torah in Shin Lamed Hey brings down that it's a mitzvah gedola to be Mevakar Chayla for two reasons. One, and primarily, you'll daven for the person. In other words, when you see a person in his state of sickness, that'll bring you to daven. Or B, seeing a person sick, you can go ahead and tend to his needs, as the Gemara will illustrate right now. Says the Gemara, Rav Chelboy Chalash, Rav Chelboy got sick. Nafik Achris Rav Kahana, and Rav Kahana went out and he announced that Rav Chelboy was boyish, he got sick. Sloi ikud dekoasi, no one came. So Amalu Rav Kahana said, Lo kachoya maisa b'talmid echad b'talmidei Rabbi Akiva. There was a Talmud Rabbi Akiva who got sick, shechalo. Like nichasu chachamim levakroi. The chachamim would not mevakim. They didn't go ahead right and visit him. V'nichlas Rabbi Akiva levakroi, and Rabbi Akiva, he went ahead right and he visited him. Ubishvil she kibdoi v'rivtzoi lefanov. And it says he cleaned. I don't know if Rabbi Akiva himself did it or he told someone to do it. He cleaned the floor, and he put water on it to keep the dust down. Chaya, he lived. So Amalei. So he said, the Talmud said to Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi, hey, sonny, you gave me life. Yatz Rabbi Akiva, v'darish. Rabbi Akiva went out and he darshan. Kol mi she'ein mevaka chayla. Anyone who's not mevaka chayla, kilu shreifich dam. It's like he's spilling blood. He also dimi yama kol mevaka chayla. Goyim lo sheyichya. He caused him to live. Caused him to die. What do you mean he caused him to die? Anyone who visits the chayil will daven that he live. In other words, you're going to daven that the person should die. Who davens that a person should die? Don't daven at all, but don't daven that a person should die. If it was not mevakar chayil, we're not daven at all. So again, very, very much in line with the Torah, that the purpose of going to Mevakar Chayla is to go ahead and incite a person to go ahead and arouse a person to go ahead and daven. I heard from Sruli Bronstein, he said the shame of the Munkat Shurav. Anytime I mention a Chassidish Seifa, I heard it from Sruli Bronstein. I never look in Chassidish Svarim, but he meant from the Munkat, the Minchas Aluza, right? Well, as we would say in Lita, the Minchas Alazar. At the Minchas Aluza, he says, fantastic, guys. He says, we know the Gemara in Samech Beis in the Yevamis, it's either Samach Beis or Samach Dalet in Yevamis, where the Talmid and Rabbi Akiva died early because they weren't noye covered between each other, right? He had 24,000 Talmidim, and they all died b'mei what? The Sphira. Why they die? Shein and noyim covered, they weren't noye covered to each other. This Gemara just illustrates it. One Talmud Rabbi Akiva died, and none of them came ahead to visit him, right? None of them came to visit. This would be an illustration of the Gemara in Yevamis. Rava Yuma Kadma the Chalash. The first day he got sick, Amalahani would tell his servants, Loi Siglu Linshi, the Ladishim Mazel. Don't reveal it because again he didn't want his mazel to go bad. Like Shema, Al Tiftach Pel Sutton. Keep it quiet the first day. However, if he saw that the disease was ongoing, Amalahani would tell them, go out, Vachrizu B'Shuka, and go announce in the Shuk, the Chol the Sunny Lay Liyachteli. Anyone who hates me, you'll be what? Liyachteli, be happy for me. And here's what it says. Pasuk says, "Bin poloi vecha al tismach." When your enemies are falling, don't be happy. Ubikoshloi, and when they come down, they stumble. Al yoga libecha. Your heart should not go ahead and rejoice. You know why? Penira Hashem will look. The Rabbi Einov, it'll be beer in his eyes. The Heishiv may olav apoy, and he'll go ahead and he'll turn his af to you. So it's mashma that he will take the feeling towards the sick person and then go ahead and put it back on the person who is happy with the person's state that's not so good. So therefore, it's very geshmak over here. So Rabbi says, listen, go ahead and announce it. If a person hates me, guess what? That'll be good because Hashem will take away my disease. And not that it'll put it on them. Not that I'm happy he's putting it on them, but it's happy I'm taking away from me. And those that love me, they'll go ahead and daven for me. So again, the stress of Bika Chaylim is to daven for the person. The stress of Bika person is to daven for the person. I think and not mistakenly, certainly when you go to visit a person, it makes the person feel good that someone's thinking about them. That for sure. But again, the Gemara goes more deeper into the Inyan. The Inyan is one of tefillah to go ahead and be misayrer. It's nice to feel bad for the person, but it's much better to daven for the person. And really daven, not just like we say perfunctorily, I take out a piece of paper and throw out a few names, but really daven for a person. I also think it's very interesting that Rav is 2 days over here, early on in the sickness, not to say anything, and as progresses to go ahead and daven. There are two opinions when you hear a person get sick, and really sick. Usually when we're davening for people with stage 4 cancer, or people who just went take it to the hospital in a severe state. So we're davening really finissim. So they say, I didn't hear it or see it. I heard b'shem the stipler. So you shouldn't say anything. It's why? Because since it's so open that this person is sick, for Kodesh Baruch Hu to do a nest, the nest happens when it's quiet. So if you don't know if the person's so sick and you daven for the person, then it's more apt for Kodesh Baruch Hu to work in his hidden ways. Conversely, there's another opinion. When you go ahead and a person's sick, to be mefarsim as much as possible, in order as Rabbi did, and to daven it. So it's very, very interesting. There are two mahalchim, how people go ahead and deal with this Indian. Two mahalchim. I just lost my friend BZ Weiss. I didn't know he was sick even. My mom didn't even know he was sick. I don't know if he was not mefarsim. I don't think he was mefarsim. Again, Louis Tratna, also blessed memory, very, very famous guy, wonderful person. Also, everyone was shocked. No one knew anything. He wanted to keep it quiet. People keep, and then there are people who force him. Again, yesh v'yesh, there are two different drachim. Says the Gemara Vaita. Amarav, kol mavakas achayla nitzal midin shel gehenim. Anyone who's mavakar achayla will be saved from the din of Gehenim. Anyone who's mavakar achayla will go ahead and be saved from the din of Gehenim. Shneimar, because it says Ashrei maskil el dol b'yayim ra. Dol, we're going to see a sickness. B'yayim ra, we're going to see his Gehenim. Yimalteu Hashem, Hashem will deliver him. Ein dol el achayla. Shneimar midalo yavitzeni. Yechizkiyahu davens me that in the end of my life. He'll end my life with sickness. So you see that what dal is sickness. Inami min hadein kraf. From this passage we can learn out that dal means sickness. It says Madu ata kocha dal ben melech babayke. It's Yainadav saying Amnon was in a state of sickness because he had such a taiva for Tamar, and he says the lashon of dal. Ein roel gehelim mishnemar ki pol Hashem lemaneu gamashul liyom ra. He prays because even the Russia on liyom ra, so that means gehelim. If a person goes ahead and is mavaka, choyla matzah schar, maskar. If I don't really maskar, kedava, as we just said, needs somebody in the shel gehenim. He's going to be saved from the din of gehenim. I mean matzah schar. What's a schar in this world? Now it's an easy question. I thought schar mitzvah b'hai al moleka. There's no schar mitzvah in this world. So what's the Gemara asking over here? What's the schar in this world for Bika Chaylim? So the answer is something you say every day. And one of the things about it is Bika Chaylim. It's one of the things that Eichel Per is saying by Lamazeh, that Karen came as Salam Haba. So obviously you get interest in this world, you're getting in this world. So the Gemara can go ahead and say, well, what is that interest? What are you getting? What's the pay you're getting in this world? So El Schar, my Schar by Lamazeh. It says Hashem Yishmareu v'chayehu v'usha ba'aretz. Hashem will guard him, give him back life, and he'll be very fortunate in this world. He won't be given over to his enemies. Hashem Yisrael, what does that mean? Hashem will watch him from his Yetzer Hara. V'chanehu, what does that mean? Hashem will restore his life from Yisurim, from suffering. V'usha ba'aretz, he'll be what fortunate. Sheyu kol mischab neboy, he'll get a lot of covet. He won't be given over to his enemies. She is dam l'reim. He'll have good friends. Right? Kinama Shripes Tzaratoy. He'll have good friends like Nama, who's Merapes Tzaras. Nama was the king of Aram. he had Saras. He went to Elisha. Elisha didn't give him the time of day. Nama got all uptight. I'm the king after all? He's not giving me the time of day. And the friends told him, listen, Elisha he didn't give you the time of day, but he told you one thing. He said, go to the Yarden and go ahead in the Yarden and be toivel 7 times. So forget about that. He didn't give covet to come out to see you, but he gave you an eitzah. Go follow the eitzah. Nama followed the eitzah, and he was cured from his teras. So he listened to his friends instead of being so huffy and taking it out on Elisha. Friends, okay, just a brief. This is it. The Malchus was divided. The Melech David was the first. Shaul was the first Melech. David was the first Melech Yehuda. The second Melech Yehuda was Shlomo. The third Melech Yehuda was the son Rechavam. Rechavam was after Shlomo died. The people were complaining about taxation, being taxed too much. They came to Rechavam and they wanted to alleviate the tax a little bit. Rechavam, he asked advice from Zakanim. They told him to alleviate the tax. He asked advice from his young people, and they gave him poor advice. He said to tax even more. Unfortunately, he made a mistake. He listened to what the young people. This led to a rebellion, sort of, and the Malchus got split. That Rechavam and Yeravam, Yechalku es Malchus, because so Rechavam was the king. He was the king of Yehuda, and Yeravam, of course, was the king of the 10 Shvatim. Right. So therefore, that's the beginning of the end, really, of Chal Yisrael. Because once the Malchus split, we were in trouble. It's just a matter of time till it acted out in the Churban by Yisrishin. But as the Gemara says, don't be like Rechavam, who listened to his friends, and as a result, that's what happened. Tanya, if the Chacham tell you to build, if the Yaladim, the young people tell you to build, the Mefarish says, even if they tell you to build a Beis Hamikdash, was the Canaan Sasan of Chacham say to the Malish, Shamal is Canaan, listen to this Canaan, Tishmal Yaladim, don't listen to the kids. Shebin Yaladim stira, because the building of young people is detrimental. The stira is the Canaan binyan. The Sidon Ladavar is Rechavam and Shlomo. You should remember what he did by listening to the young people. Look what happened to him. Again, it's the Canaan, always people are kind of chachma. Amrav Sisha Brei Ravidi. Like Lisayt Inish Kitsira, a person shouldn't visit a sick person. Leibin Tilsa Shoy Kadmais, and not in the first few hours of the day. Leibin Tilsa Shoy Basraisa the Yom, not the last few hours of the day. In other words, when she missed in the middle, in order that you shouldn't give up davening to the person, right? Why is that? First 3 hours of the day, a person if is sick, he's not so sick, and you say, well, I don't have to daven him, he looks pretty good. That's right. So the latter part of the day, takev fulsha, you become strong the disease, and you'll think that it's too much, that the situation is one that you can't get any help whatsoever. So when go in the middle of the day, you'll get a clearer understanding of where really he's holding. Earlier in the day, it's going to be to the positive that he looks pretty good. End of the day, too much. Go in the middle of the day. Interesting. Amar Rav and Amar Rav. Okay. How do you know Kadosh Baruch Hu goes ahead and sustains the chayla? Shnemar, right? Hashem yisadenu al eretz dayoy. Hashem will go ahead and give strength to a person on his sickbed. I think we saw a Gemara that a person feeds off his fever, and Belsky Zatzal said that a person felt of its fever. I don't remember where in the portals of my mind we said something like that, but Belsky said even with fever, a person would go ahead and be supportive by that. How do you know that the Shekhinah is at the top of the bed of a chayla? And it says Hashem Yisadenu al eretz dayoy, that because Kadosh Baruch Hu will go ahead on his sick bed. I think even in Parshas Vayechi it says Vayishtach v'yisol al Shamita that he bowed down to the head of the bed, that the Shekhinah is at the head of the bed. If I recall that, Rashi brings that. We are Brisa substantiates this. Someone goes to visit a person that's sick. Don't sit on the bed. Nor on a bench near the bed. Wrap yourself in your talus and go ahead and sit on the ground. Same pasuk again. Hashem said, "Kadosh Baruch will go ahead and support a person on a sick bed." Okay, now. The next piece of Gemara, I have no idea why it's here. Zero idea why it's there. It could be just that Rabbi Stern can go ahead. It was written short that I can go ahead and get out quickly because I have to interview a lot of kids today for school. But that would be very, very personal, and I doubt that's the reason it's here. But be that as it may, it is here. Okay, a little outside. We know there's a pasuk that says the following. It says that there are two types of mikvahs. Ach ma'ayan ubar, mikvah mayim yeh tahar. A mayan is a spring, a bor is a pit, and a gathering of water is tahar. There's two types of water sources. There's one that is like a river that flows. It comes from the earth. And then there is one that is a gathering of water. That's a pit, where it doesn't have a natural source, but it comes either from the melting of the snow or more predominantly rainwater. When it's flowing, it's called zoichlin. When it's gathered together, it's called ashburin. It's called ashburin. And it says that you could use this to go ahead and make yourself tahar. Mashma, any which way. It says ach. Ach means ach. It means however. However means the halacha is that if you're in a river and the river is not zoichlin, meaning the majority of the water in the river is from rain, you can't use it. Rain works when it's gathered together. Rain does not work when it's moving. So let's say there was a big drought, and the river was very, very low. And then all of a sudden you had this huge rain. So we know that river got the majority of its water from what? It got its majority of the water from rain. You would not be able to be toivel in that mikvah. Because why? Because you need ashburin and not zoichlin. That's the hakdama. Okay? And with that in mind, the Gemara begins. Says the Gemara. Amarav, Mitra b'marava sada rabba paras. You don't want to know if you're in Bavel and you want to know if it rained in Eretz Yisrael, just take a look at the Euphrates River. If the Euphrates River is swollen, if it's very, very high, then you know where did the majority of the water came from. It came from Eretz Yisrael. It got swollen because the water is raining in Eretz Yisrael. Since it's raining in Eretz Yisrael, the paras gets supported, meaning it swells because of it. And the nafkamina would be that at that point in time, you would not be able to go use it as a mikvah. Why? Because you'd have roiv rainwater, roiv megashamim, and not roiv zoichlin. Upligi the Shmuel, and the argues in Shmuel. Dama Shmuel, nara mekipi misbarech. It's mekifia, from its source. Literally, it's bedrock, but its source. It's right. There's a rav over here, a ran over here, a short ran, that says that the water comes when you have a proportion. If a tefach of rainwater comes down to chayim, double the amount comes from its source. So even if the paras is swollen, it's even because it's raining in Eretz Yisrael, still there's a majority of water that's zoichlin, and therefore you would be able to use this as a mikvah because the majority of the water came from the water source rather than from the rain. So Shmuel disagrees with Rav. Now, and Shmuel himself, the Gemara says, Upligi the Shmuel, and Shmuel himself argues on Shmuel. Dama Shmuel, Ein hamayim mitarin bezoichlin, water cannot be mitar bezoichlin, ela paras b'moy tishrei bilvad. In other words, in Tishrei bilvad, we can know for sure that the paras is majority one of water that's natural. Mashma all the rest of the days of the year, not. Master, you can't use the mikvah, Shmuel says. Shmuel just finished telling you that the water, the majority comes from the source. So you see over here, if he's only allowing you in Tishrei and the rest of the year not, it must be he's worried about rainwater. So therefore, Shmuel is arguing on himself. That's it. The Gemara doesn't answer it. It just gives that. Now the Gemara concludes, Avu the Shmuel, the father of Shmuel, who obviously held like Shmuel, Avad lahoin mikvois lebinsei b'yom Nisan. He made, during the year, they would go into, when it was cold, in the winter, they would use the mikveh in the house. But in the Nisan, when it started getting warmer, he would make for them mikvois outside. Umefatzi b'yom Tishrei. So in the when it was warm, he'd make mikvahs outside rather than in the house, and be made Tishrei, right? Made Tishrei. So you see, he held like his son that be made only Tishrei could you go ahead and use the water. Only in Tishrei could you use the water, umefatze, and he would make mats. Now there's two pshatim over here. Either he made mats because the water on the bottom was muddy, and it would be a chatzitza, so he made a mat that they could put their feet on the water, or because it's sneas, mefatze were walls that people should not be able to see them. So those are the two lashonos over here. Okay, everyone should have a great day. Thank you for listening.